Hey, Jacksonville, winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com/radio today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Follow us anytime on Twitter. Our handle is @CBS Sports Radio.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
If you can make a hit in a ball game, you can make a hit with me.
Good morning. Welcome to The Perfect Pitch with Stephen Troche and Sean O'Toole. I'm Matt McGee. I'll be steering the ship as we go navigating into the waters of fantasy baseball, analytical baseball, probably some Major League Baseball, and knowing us, some stuff that has nothing to do with baseball. Welcoming on to the show, Mr. Stephen Troche. Stephen, how the hell are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic as always. I am ready to get this show underway. Sorry about that. No, I mean, one of the things I love about being on the Armchair Quarterbacks is just, it's just a bunch of friends just getting together, talking sports, having a good time. But one thing I'm really excited with this is to be able to get more into the numbers and the analytics behind all of our fantasy decisions and just kind of giving you a more of a in-depth look into that.
Amen to that. Sean O'Toole, how the hell are you, sir? Good morning.
I am fantastic. I just have one question. Wait, we're friends? I missed that part. No, I'm kidding.
Take the Braves shirt off, and then we'll be good.
Hey, calm down. Big win last night for the Braves at the Nakahoma. Yeah, let's get into some numbers, some nerdery. Let's do it.
All right, so I'll go ahead and I'm just going to kind of steer the ship here. I've got the topics at hand, and y'all just do y'all's thing. Let's start off with, I think I've actually got I was thinking about this last night. Now, once I get a hold of what y'all are going to do each week, I'm going to try to get sound bites and all that kind of stuff. And I know I have it somewhere. I do have it. Here we go.
Buy or sell.
How about that copyright? All right.
See how long that stays up.
Exactly. I'll have to be checking the feed while y'all talk. All right. Buy or sell some players. And I found an article, by the way, that I do want to get y'all's take on some of the players to sell high or to buy low kind of thing. But y'all take it from here.
All right. So, Sean, I'm going to kind of, I'm going to start hot and heavy, kind of building off what we were talking about last night. Number 1, Matthew Boyd. How are we feeling about him? So, I mean, he's, for the majority of his career, he was a very, very high strikeout guy, but he gave up a lot of hard contact, a lot of home runs. It really kind of plagued him. Was never really able to put it together. However, this year through 7 starts, he's actually sitting with a 1.94 ERA. I mean, it's backed by a 2.96 FIP, which is a field independent pitching. So it's just kind of, it's a more in-depth look of how the pitcher does just based off what he can do. But his strikeout percentage is down to 17.9%. So it's kind of painting a weird picture here. It seems like he's changed his approach as a whole. Is that sustainable as a Tigers fan?
As a Tigers fan, I would say that it is not sustainable. I'm going to give you a couple of reasons as to why. Matt's always had the stuff. He's got a really nasty 4-seam, 2-seam cutter combo that he can throw to both sides of the plate in most counts. And he's also got a curveball and a changeup. He doesn't throw his changeup much. He relies a lot on his curveball as his primary breaking pitch. His 7-year average home run rate is 4.2%. He's got a few years that are particularly ugly. I mean, his last year in Toronto, it's amazing to me that the two parts of the David Price trade are still with the Tigers. Michael Fulmer and Matthew Boyd are somehow still both Tigers, and that's the only good trade they've ever made since Al Avila has been the general manager. But his home run rate is 0.6% this year. His 7-year average coming into this year was 4.8%. If you even just factor in regression to the mean, his mean home run percentage should be somewhere around 4%. Now, he's not giving up any home runs this year. It's notable that his last couple of starts have come against the Indians, who have really been struggling to score runs and hit the ball with any contact outside of Jose Ramirez. And he got the Royals this week in the middle of an 11-game slump where they look like they couldn't chainsaw their way out of a wet paper sack. So we'll see as he faces the White Sox a little bit more, if that stays up. He could be getting helped a lot by the fact that the Twins are, as we've discussed on the Armchair show during the week, the Twins are a complete question mark right now. They can't hit anything aside from Byron Buxton, who's out. Nelson Cruz looks like Father Time has finally somewhat caught up with him because he's not spinning on inside fastballs. The big thing with Matt is if you have him in one of your leagues, don't sell him now. You might be able to get more for him if this continues. And especially if, as I think is very likely, if this continues, he isn't going to be a Tiger by Independence Day. Someone's going to offer them a boatload for him. He's coming up on his final arbitration year this coming year, after which, he can walk into free agency in 23. So, just knowing the Tigers front office the way I do, they're going to sell him now if this start continues. And the advanced numbers suggest he's getting a little bit lucky, but also, having a veteran catcher like Wilson Ramos behind the plate might be paying dividends. Tigers haven't really had that for several years. The last quote unquote veteran catcher they had was Alex Avila, if you want to call Alex Avila that. Wilson Ramos is a distinguished catcher, from the Nationals organization who's caught a lot of Cy Young winning pitchers. So there could be something to that. I think I would be shocked if he's given up less than 1% of home runs for another 3 weeks, but the results so far don't lie.
No, I mean,
throw a question to y'all real quick.
Yeah.
So he's off to a good start. He's in a division that's struggling. We get that and everything. Do you think any of this could have to do with the fact that he's pitching in cold weather now? And would he start getting blasted in July and August?
Oh, everyone's been talking about the deadening of the baseball, but I mean, people kind of forget we didn't have April baseball last year. We didn't have May baseball. So people just kind of forget. And it's just like in the back, it's not really, at the front of their minds that cold weather games usually are lower scoring. We're not going to see as many home runs. I definitely think that Boyd is going to be due for it at some point. I mean, kind of building off of that, just looking at the advanced numbers. I mean, in 2021, he is pitching a lot. He's pitching to contact more than he ever has before. He's like his swinging strike rate is the lowest it's been since 2017. Just sitting at 10% right now. But his called strike percentage is also at the highest it's been, close to 20%. So I think he's been getting really lucky. So, I mean, with all of that, his batting average on balls in play is 244, which is a career low. So, I mean, you got to think at some point, once that starts regressing back, once the weather starts getting warmer, I think he's gonna blow up at some point.
Speaking of what you just said, that brings up something that's kind of off topic, but it kind of is, about them not playing baseball last spring. Last night, I was looking at the hats, and of course, I've got my MLB one that is the Armed Forces weekend this weekend. But I was looking at it, and so I'm in the middle of working, and I asked my wife, I said, "Can you do me a favor?" She said, "What's it?" Look up why the hell they're wearing these hats. I said, "It's been a couple of years. I could not remember what it was. It's Armed Forces weekend in Major League Baseball. It's Armed Forces weekend across the board, and they're wearing these hats." And I'm like, isn't that a double dip? Like, shouldn't they put this Armed Forces Weekend like way into the future? Because we got Memorial Day in like 2 weeks, and that's essentially what Memorial Day is. It's Armed Forces Week. I mean, Memorial Day, that's all I do is thank a veteran, between that and Veterans Day. They need to put this sucker like in the middle of the summer sometime or something. Anyways, and rant. Y'all do you. I was just like, it seems whoever came up with this did not look at the calendar. Right. I guess that's my point. But anywho, I mean, don't put it in a stupid place. Don't put it like on the anniversary of like, when the Alamo fell, don't do that.
Bastille Day. That's when we need to do it.
Make sure it's during a W, right? Okay. All right. Y'all continue.
Okay. No, but just kind of, I think we're on the same page with Boyd. It's gonna unravel at some point. We just don't know when. But I kind of feel you there on the wait to sell. I'm definitely on the sell train, but I'm willing to give it a few more starts, see if he can keep it going, because that price is going to go even higher.
Yeah, he's the ultimate GameStop stock right now. I mean, you probably got him low because he was coming off a bad year. When to sell is up to you. I wouldn't hold it forever because, if he's a Yankee or if he's a Red Sox or if he's a Cardinal mid-July pitching in the Midwest when it's 97 degrees out, that home run rate is not going to stay at 0.6%. I'm sorry. It's just not. I've watched him for too long. It's not going to. He pitches to contact and he lives in the middle of the zone, especially early in the count with his curveball. I just don't see it. So that's enough on that's enough on the Tigers unless we're talking about betting against them. What's up next?
All right, next player I'm going to cover
Detroit
here.
Baseball Weekly.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, next player I wanted to talk about here, kind of the flip side of Matt Boyd, and another person I have a lot of history with in fantasy, Luis Castillo. And he has just been breaking hearts all across the country in fantasy this year, got blown up again this week. But I'm looking at the advanced numbers, and it's kind of telling a different story. One of the first things that I like, especially with Luis Castillo, that I keep in mind, he's been in the league, since 2017. So this is his 5th year. Every single year, this is his first half. He gets blown up. He has a 6.0, 7.0 ERA. He can't get anybody out. But then in the second half, he has a 1.5 ERA, a 34% K percentage. He looks like a Cy Young candidate. So, I mean, that right there is a reason alone to have me kind of holding off on selling Castillo. But when you look when you look deeper into it, he has lost a little bit of velocity down to his average fastball is 96 this year. It's usually staying around 97, 98. But that isn't anything new. So, I mean, in 2017, he had a 97, his fastball was averaging 97. Then he was down 2018 to 95. Then it came back up and back up again in 2020. So, I mean, it's still, that's one thing to keep an eye on to see if he can get that a little bit higher. But so with Matt Boyd, he was pitching to contact, getting extremely lucky. No, nothing was really getting nothing. It was getting through. It wasn't giving up many hits. Luis Castillo, on the other hand, is getting absolutely blown up. He actually leads the league in batting average, on balls in play. Right now, it's 380, I believe. But he's doing the same thing. He's kind of pitching to contact, not getting many swings and misses, but all of his contact is falling through. His exit velocity is still the same. He's still pitching to the same barrel rate. I think it's just more of once he can kind of find that pitch mix, start getting the ball lower in the zone, I think we're going to see a resurgence. And I mean, we've seen the ceiling of Luis Castillo from the past few seasons. This is a guy I am looking to buy and at all costs right now. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, so he's an interesting case for me because there's not a long track record. I throw out 2020 with everybody because I just don't want to put anything into last year. So his advanced numbers, really you have to go off 17, 18, and 19. 19 is the year that's really kind of the outlier, where he was an all-star. He was only getting paid about $500,000, but he went 190 innings, and his pitch mix hasn't really changed that much. The one thing that jumps out, he's always kind of been effectively wild, right? His walk percentage has always vacillated somewhere between 8.5% and 10%, but his strikeout rate's always been 27 to 30, right? That's his general range. So this is a guy that throws hard, is somewhat unpredictable. And I tend to think of guys based on what I think of them in MLB The Show. This is a dude, when I face him in MLB The Show, I'm going to wait for, if he's getting his breaking stuff over the plate and he's throwing that curveball slider in the zone for strikes, or he's getting called strikes, you're in a lot of trouble, because then he can elevate his fastball. If he's not, then he's putting 95 in the middle of the plate. And that's kind of what happened this year, is he's getting banged. His strikeout rate's only 16.3%. I agree with you that he's a buy candidate, and you can buy low on him right now. The only concern about that is, what are you giving up? Again, we're not going to belabor this point because we talked about it last week, but context is king whenever we're talking about this stuff. If you're in a 5x5, if you're in a dynasty, what are you giving up for him? I wouldn't give up much, but he's a guy that someone might be looking in your league to offload for cheap. You might have someone in your league who's getting very little production out of the outfield, and you can, get rid of a spare outfielder, a fourth or fifth outfielder, a Jeff McNeil type, a David Moore type for Castillo. And if you're doing that, just know that this may not turn around, but his career numbers suggest that it will. I don't believe, unless there's something going on with his arm, his shoulder, his elbow, that we're not being clued into. And if that was the case, I don't think the Reds would be trotting him out every fifth day. I don't think he's going to continue with a 9.16 runs allowed per 9. That's just unlikely to continue. But, if you've watched baseball long enough, you always have to worry, about what I call the Fulton-Evich curse, when guys just suddenly can't locate anything and they just have to lay that fastball in the middle of the zone. Does that break them? So, it's calculated risk, but yeah, if you're buying him low, I don't think this is a bad person to buy at all.
I mean, one thing I kind of I was looking at last night, and I just kind of noticed again. So if you've ever been on Baseball Savant's website, if you go look at their players, they have probably some of the most in-depth data I've ever seen for any sport. And so one of the things I've been looking at with Castillo is they have kind of heat maps of where all of their pitches go, like by pitch type, by location. And one thing I'm noticing this year, especially mostly in his slider and his changeup, in 2019, he was really good about keeping that slider low and in the corner of the zone. And same thing with the changeup. He was really good about kind of painting that on the edges and really not leaving it over the middle of the plate. This year, I'm looking at the heat map. That changeup, that dead spot is literally between the knees and the belt buckle down the middle of the plate. The slider is all over the place. It's really looking like his control, something is just off with his control. And I mean, it's even evidenced in his strikeouts. I mean, he still has an elite chase rate. He's in the 93rd percentile of all pitchers, but he only has a 16% strikeout percentage, which is in the 12th percentile. And I mean, for Castillo, past 2 years, 29%, 31%. I mean, there's just too much here to not want to go in. I mean, I've seen him available on waivers in some leagues. I mean, people are just really done with him. I'm sure, I'm pretty sure you could trade a third outfielder for him at this point.
Someone who just joined us wants to know who y'all are talking about.
Luis Castillo.
Luis Castillo. Right. Starting pitcher for the Reds.
You just haven't said his name in a while, and they were like, who are y'all talking about? He, him, or is he a they? Okay. I did real quick, and I'm just going to pepper these at y'all and then go back. I just want to get y'all's take on it because this is a pretty popular article that's out right now. Guys, would you buy low on these guys? Just kind of give me, a quick yes or no, and then sell high. The same thing. Okay. Are you buying low on Jeff McNeil, Sean?
Yes, absolutely. There's bats in that lineup. His production's gonna improve.
Steven?
Absolutely. Like Sean said, there's bats in the lineup, and he is generally a very high on base percentage guy. he gets on, the runs will start coming. I'm loving it.
What about Kevin Biggio?
Same
I've already given
exact
up
thing
on
for
him.
me. He's probably, I think he's a little bit more, I think he's a better version of Jeff McNeil, honestly. I mean, his struggles have been really, really bad this year. But once again, a really strong lineup. I think he's got all the tools to really turn it around.
I gave up on him in the Dynasty League, but that's only because some idiot left Jose Altuve out there on the waiver wire. I was like, well, what the hell are we doing here?
McGee loves to mention you have to watch the games. There's some sophomore slump guys that I'm monitoring. He's one that I'm a little bit more concerned about. Him and Kyle Lewis are the two that I'm a little bit more concerned about than, say, a Bo Bichette, because even though I've never loved Bichette's swing and I don't know how repeatable it is in the long term, he has such a great eye and he barrels the ball so consistently. Biggio's a little concerning to me because they've got other options in their farm system and other guys that they can put at third if he keeps struggling. So I'm not on that one. I wouldn't buy him.
A couple more real quick. Patrick Corbin, Steven.
No, I'm out on Corbin. I was never in love with him when he was in his prime.
Sean.
100% out. When your velo's down that much, there's something we don't know. There's something in the shoulder, something in the arm.
He's had a couple of decent outings recently, though. I don't know. I think he's worth a streamer, but I wouldn't go nuts and trade Ian Anderson for him or something. We'll skip past Carlos Rodon because I think that's a kind of a given that if you can sell him high, I think you would, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Just on injury risk alone, yes.
Alex Reyes, the closer of the Cardinals.
I'm leaning more sell there just because it's been so many years, just kind of the injury thing as well. They have options in the back of that bullpen. I'm not 100% sold on him.
Sean?
I despise buying saves because they can be found so many different places and it's such a volatile stat. You can get Michael Fulmer right now on the waiver wire for nothing. And even though the Tigers aren't very good, he's going to close every game they win. So I just wouldn't buy there. No. Sell.
No, this is sell high is what it is.
Okay. Sorry.
I would, if you can get something for him, I would say yes. I watch a lot of Cardinals games. He has a lot of saves. He has a low ERA. He loads the bases a lot too. So he's very Luke Jackson-ish, except he's got a lot better stuff to take away with.
Kind of the counterpoint of Sean's. Anytime you can sell saves, you do it.
Yeah.
Yep. Anytime.
I just don't. I think nowadays people don't buy him as much anymore, unless you're like in a category league and someone's desperate. Justin Turner hitting 307 through 35 games.
I'm gonna stay away just because. I mean, I would sell him at this point just because that Dodgers lineup. He's not gonna ever get full 162 game playing time. He's gonna sit against left-handed pitching. I'm not ever gonna be buying into or truly want a rotation player on my roster.
Sean,
if you can sell him high, go ahead because for less money. You can get the same production out of Jeimer Candelario, Austin Riley, or Starlin Castro over the long haul. And all those guys are under 60% rostered in most leagues. So if you can get something for them, absolutely sell them.
And one more, and then y'all get back to business. Adolis Garcia of Texas, who's off to a hot start.
I'll let Sean take this one. He was actually talking about him last night a little bit.
Yeah, I would not sell him under any circumstances. I'm a big fan of his. On base machine, hits the ball really, really hard, is in the top 15 in exit velo in all of baseball, and young, super young. So again, like I mentioned context earlier, if you're in a dynasty league and you're selling this guy, just sell your franchise to somebody because you're not doing the right things. This is a dude you want for years and years to come on your team. He's he could be right-handed Juan Soto. His eye is that good, and he's got a lot of sock in that bat, and he's going to play in Texas and Houston like 90 times a year. So, I mean, under no circumstances should you sell Adolis Garcia.
All right, go ahead and get back to it. We got about 7-8 minutes before we need to jump on to DFS.
All right, so I think it's a good time to jump into the week preview. So Sean, I know you were did a little bit of research on the 2 starts this week for like 2 starts that are under 60% owned, ones that you can actually go out and get.
Yeah, there's a few guys I like. There's some no thanks guys I'll mention towards the end, but really quick, just a couple of names that you can get pretty easily. First is going to be Jameson Taillon of the New York Yankees. He's anywhere between 35 and 55%. I went through Yahoo, CBS, ESPN. Depending on your league's rules, he might be a little bit higher or lower. He's at Texas and then home for the Chicago White Sox. Texas is, I've caught more Rangers games than probably anybody on the panel this year. They're a surprisingly frisky team, but they're very, very swing heavy. Like they swing at everything and they swing hard. Gallo, Nick Lowe, Adolis Garcia, the formerly mentioned Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who's a guy that I love a lot. But they swing a lot and they strike out a lot. So, if you're looking for some Ks, again, at Texas and versus the White Sox, he could be a good stream. The other one I'm going to mention really quick is Adbert Alzolay, who I picked up in a few of my leagues. He's going twice this coming week, at home against Washington and then at St. Louis. Alzolay was at one time a top 10 prospect in the Cubs organization. He really only has 2 pitches, and he does kind of get bopped a bit by left-handed hitters. That's not going to hurt him much against the Nationals because their only decent left-handed hitters are Schwarber and Bell, whose strikeout rates are through the roof. But when he gets to St. Louis, he might even have less trouble with it because he's going to be facing Edman, Goldschmidt, Arenado, all right-handed batters. Alzolay has some really wild swings in lefties versus righties because he's got a high riding fastball that lefties seem to be able to hit really well. But he's a guy I like. Again, you're always a little dubious of a guy who only basically throws 2 pitches. He has a fastball and then what's basically a slurve. But so far, he's been a really good get. The last one I'm going to mention really quick, if you can find him, I don't think he's going to be available in most leagues, but I do like Casey Mize's matchups this week. He's at Seattle, who all the Kellenick buzz aside, they can't hit the ball a lick, not one single bit. And Kyle Lewis is having a terrible year. And then he's going to be at Kansas City, but he's going to be facing, based on my projections, Dustin Lynch in that start. And I was outspoken liking Dustin Lynch last week, and blew more off that rose in the first inning. Young guy, is going to live in the zone a lot and get bopped. So if you can get Mize, he's a good one. Those are 3 I'd look at that are all under 75%, some even lower than that in most standard formats.
No, I love it. Casey Mize especially. I mean, he's been a big target for me in dynasty leagues. I mean, he was coming out. What was he, number 1 pick a couple years ago for Detroit?
First overall out of Auburn. Yep.
No, I remember watching him. I remember watching him pitch at Auburn, and he seemed like he was three levels above any other player in college at the time. And I mean, he almost reminds me of Tua in the sense that he's never going to be the most physically imposing. He's never going to have the strongest fastball, but he just seems to know how to pitch and know how to use his pitches. Is it like we may not see that breakout now, but I think in a year or 2, he's going to be a top 10 pitcher for sure.
I'm not sure that as a Tigers fan, I love that comparison, but I get where you go.
You like it a lot better when Tua is up there with LaFleur, and he's able to get because Aaron's headed to South Beach, baby. Come on, let's go.
I say that more in Tua. You give him a couple of years, let him get up to really learn the NFL. I think he's going to be just doing Peyton things, not in the crazy throws, but just outmaneuvering everybody, switching out of plays. It's gonna be a real fun time in Miami. But I digress. All right, so getting on to hitter matchups. One team I'm really loving hitters from this week is the Reds. They are at home both series this week. And for those who don't know, Cincinnati is one of the most hitter-friendly parks in the league. I mean, it is just
Great American Small Park.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you really couldn't have said it any better there. But I mean, no, there's actually been a lot of surprises on that team. Outside of the studs that we call them, Suarez, Castellanos, and Moustakas. Surprisingly, 2 of the better hitters on that team so far, 3 of the better hitters have been Joey Votto, Jesse Winker, and Tyler Naquin. Actually, I was kind of going through and just prepping for the week, and I was looking at exit velocity, You mentioned Adolis Garcia's up there. Tyler Naquin is in the top 20 of exit velocity in the league right now. Like I just never would have. Like, he's above Mike Trout, Nelson Cruz, Freddie Freeman, Bryce Harper. I mean, seeing him in Cleveland, I never would have thought that would be coming. So I mean, that's definitely been something to keep an eye on when he's in the lineup. But also Joey Votto's really like seen a career resurgence this year, 92.6 at exit velocity. He's only batting 230, but his slugging percentage, it's getting up there a little bit, 430. Another team I like, well, actually one team I'm staying away from this week, we have the Rangers, kind of building off your Adolis Garcia. They are at home both games this week, kind of like the Reds, but they are also in a very hitter-unfriendly park. When Texas closes that dome, it is incredibly unfriendly. There's no power coming out of there. So, I mean, I'm definitely staying away from there. They get the Yankees come in first and then the Astros. So I'm building off of that. They're pitching from those two teams. Really not something I want to be going for. I actually kind of do like the Tigers a little bit this week, though. They're hitting. They just seem to be like a DFS darling for many. It's either you you either choose the pitcher against them and win all the money, or you choose the one day that the Tigers go off for 15 runs every week and you win all the money. But I mean, like, they're facing the Royals. The Royals have really been scuffling after starting strong. And then going into Seattle, I'm really not the Seattle is, they're struggling. They're bottom of the barrel team, kind of like what the Tigers are used to. Sorry, Sean.
By the way, 2-minute drill till DFS.
Got it. So no, and then that was just my main thing there. Tigers have kind of been hot and cold. I think they're starting to pick it up a little bit. And I think with being in Seattle, facing Kansas City, getting that pitching, I think it could be a profitable week for them. All right, so we had a couple more minutes. So Sean, I'll let you get into which one to do, prospects.
Yeah, I'm going to do a couple prospects really quick.
Yep.
One thing just to piggyback on the Tigers, and I'll be really fast. If you're struggling up the middle of the infield, you can probably get Nico Goodrum pretty easy. Now you're going to have to live with some strikeouts. You're going to have to live, he is the ultimate roller coaster guy. But he has 13 hits since May the 1st. He has a ton of power in that bat, always has. You just have to worry about, how you can absorb the strikeouts. But he plays a lot of different positions. He's likely eligible in the outfield and probably at first, second, third, and short because he's played everywhere but catcher. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. Just a couple of prospects really quick because I know we're on a time schedule. Should you pick up Jared Kellenick? Should you pick up Logan Gilbert if you have them in your leagues? Absolutely. Kellenick is a no doubt 10-time All-Star as long as he stays healthy. Basically left-handed Mike Trout. And I don't say that lightly, but that's the most common comp for him. An everyday center fielder who's going to hit, who's going to bop, and he's going to hit good pitching. Was 2 for 3 last night with a home run and a double. Logan Gilbert, I'm a little bearish on because it's really a 3-pitch Mitch and it's not a hard fastball. If he can get people out with his secondary pitches and, use that 93, 94 on the corners of the plate, he'll be a guy to pick up and stream and maybe keep if you're in a dynasty league, but don't overpay for him because there's just going to be other guys this year later on that you're going to see come up, particularly hitters like JJ Bleday with the Marlins and some others that you might want to save that roster spot for. So that's really quick. I'll have a few more next week because we need to get into DFS.
All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. DFS, the plays. So we're going to start doing a competition with each other, but we talked about the fact that because we like to do the long slate, not give me the, what do they call this? The jumbo bumbo 2-game dip where you're between 1 and 140 kind of crap. So we're essentially not going to give you a full slate when we record this at 10 a.m. Eastern. We are going to compete against each other, and we'll react to that the following week. And what we'll do here is just tell you the stacks we like, et cetera, but we won't do a full lineup. So, Steven, take it away.
All right. So first thing I want to talk about with DFS, I'm sure many of you have tuned into our football show. So it's going to be a little bit different from there. So I wanted to touch base first on just kind of when you go into DFS, just kind of what kind of contest you're going to be entering. So, I mean, you see, you're going to go into the lobby, and the main two types are cash and then GPP, which will be your big tournaments. So the cash games are going to be your 50-50s, your double ups, and that's really if you're really trying to build a bankroll, that's where you want to spend the majority of your time. In the 50-50 in the cash games, only like your lineup will only need to beat about 50% of the lineups in that contest. So say there's 1,000 people, your lineup has to be one of the best 500, and you double your money up. Pretty easy. I mean, like, so you think, but, and then the GPPs, that's where you that's where you win the big money. That's where you win the $1 million. But those are also incredibly hard to win. And those contests generally pay out only the top 20 and 25%. So, like, same example, if you have 1,000 people in that contest, only the top 250 are going to pay out, and sometimes the top, like the bottom 100 of those aren't even going to be like doubling your money. So definitely, I recommend sticking with the cash games. And then when you're looking at the cash games, there's a few things I'm always looking for. So when I'm looking at pitchers, I'm looking for pitchers that, especially on DraftKings, the most important thing is, can they get strikeouts? Strikeouts are the most, like, they drive the points. That's what you're looking for in cash games. You can live with power, but you ideally want to get the guys who have the best chance of going 6+ innings, getting the quality start, and that are going to strike a bunch of guys out. And then when we're looking at hitting, kind of the same thing. We're going to try to find guys that really don't strike out that much, but can also get on base. I mean, the power is great for cash games, but not necessary. So, I mean, the home runs are so variant. The more guys get on base, the more chances there are for them to steal, more chances there are for them to score. Those are the two main things I'm looking at. So going into that, one of my favorite pitchers of the day, actually my favorite pitcher of the day, a little bit more expensive than usual, but Trevor Bauer at 11,000. He gets to face Miami. They did have a little bit of success against Kershaw last night, but that lineup in general their splits are heavily favored towards left-handed pitching. So if getting to face Bauer tonight, who has been on an absolute tear again this season, there's really no other teams, no other pitchers outside of maybe Rodon at 10,000. But Trevor Bauer's floor and ceiling is far and away above anybody else on the slate. He's the first person I'm locking in cash games, not even thinking twice about it. If we're going to go a little bit cheaper with pitching, I'm going to look actually at Luis Garcia for Houston. He's facing Texas today at home. He's like 84 is a little bit much, but that like Houston ballpark, like Texas, is very power draining, not really conducive to hitting. Garcia's been pretty decent, like to get the year going. Strikeouts have not. No, he's been getting his strikeouts. 7 strikeouts last time at home against the Angels. 8 strikeouts against the Yankees. He's gotten 15+ points in every single start this year. I'm rolling with it. Sean, anybody you looked at pitcher-wise for DraftKings today?
Yeah, the two pitchers I like the most that I have in my lineup are Ian Anderson and Tristan McKenzie. Anderson against Milwaukee just because they don't have Yelich in the lineup. I saw a lot of guys like trying to force contact last night against Drew Smyly. So, if you had trouble forcing contact against Smyly, here's Ian Anderson, 94 fastball and, 87 changeup that looks just like his fastball that he can throw everywhere. I think he's a good get today at 9,200, which is in the top 7, but not in the top 3 of the guys that you can spend on. And Mckenzie, I just love his makeup. He's been a little bit underwhelming so far this year, but like I mentioned with, yeah, a little bit.
That's
so
an understatement,
far.
Buddy.
It is an understatement, but like I mentioned, Seattle is a mostly young team. And anytime you can start a pitcher whose biggest fear in the middle of the lineup is Evan White, Jose Marmolejos, you've got a pretty good chance to strike on that kind of value at 7,300. The one hitter I want to mention really quick, just because his splits are so insane and he's actually really cheap for his position. Rhys Hoskins at first base is $4,700. Now his numbers, if you just look at the top line, are unimpressive this year. He's striking out way more than he did in 2019 and way more than he did in 2020. Notably, though, he's facing, I forget the guy's first name, but Key for the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're in Dunedin. In Dunedin, and this dude's rocking a 10 ERA. Here's Hoskins splits against left-handers this year, a 10-11 OPS, a 638 slugging, and his strikeout to walk is only 2-1, where against righties it's 5-1. So, if they bash this guy out of there in the third inning, this may not matter. But Hoskins is someone at that price I like a lot today to maybe bomb a few. And he's been in a slump, and that place is, Dave mentioned it last week, a minor league park. So, you get one in the air, the wind stream's going to carry it out alone.
Oh, I know. I love that. All right. So now so I'm going to jump into the cash core next, and then we'll end off with our just a couple stacks that we like for tournaments. All right. So first person I'm locking into all cash lineups, someone we mentioned a few times already, Jared Kellenick. He's been leading off the past 2 games, broke out in a big way last night, and he's minimum price on DraftKings. Mckenzie can get strikeouts, but he can also walk just as many batters. Like with that stolen base upside, the power, everything you get for minimum price, there is no reason Jared Kellenick should not be in any of your lineups today. Next one I'm looking at, Pavement Smith, 3,700, first base and outfield eligible. They're facing Arizona. No, he's with Arizona. They're facing Joe Ross and Washington today. Power is a little bit below league average. His ISO against right-handers is 163, but he also does not strike out at all. I mean, he's averaging 0.18 strikeouts per at bat, and I mean, league average from what I've seen is around 0.26, 0.27. So no, I mean, he's in a good spot today. Joe Ross been kind of a punching bag the past few years. I was really hopeful early in his career he'd do anything, but as we can see, that has not happened. But I'm all aboard that train. And another player I love, Tim Anderson today against Mike Minor. And Tim Anderson, kind of like you mentioned with Hoskins, is absolutely destroys lefties. He's got a 536 WOBA, 3.75 ISO, 0.18 strikeouts per at bat against left-handed pitching. I mean, last year he hit, I think, 600 with like a 1.3 OPS. I mean, he was just the epitome of a left-handed masher. And I mean, you can get him today for $5,000. Just for context, Trey Turner's at $5,900. So for $1,000 savings, I will take that every single day.
I'll tell you, got to keep an eye on who's low right now, but he's starting to heat up. I don't have his value in front of me right now, but Charlie Blackman, who is at home today against Cincinnati, he went 3 for 3 last night, and overall, I'm looking at it, he is
5,000.
6 of his
5,000.
He's 5,000. Okay, well, he's 6 of his last 14. So he's starting to heat up a little bit. Anyways.
No, I mean, like just to add on to Blackman, I was looking at him last night. No, he's definitely a breakout candidate. And
Ozuna is starting to heat up. He's going up against a lefty in that ballpark. So we saw him go deep last night. He may not be a bad play tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm all for that. All right, so the stacks. First game I'm targeting is the Padres and the Cardinals. They're in San Diego. That's a very hitter-friendly park. Chris Paddock on the mound tonight. Just ever since his 2018 breakout, has really never seemed to be able to put it together. It's just like he has that. He has 2 pitches. He has the fastball and the changeup. He just really can't get anything else going behind that. And the Padres face Adam Wainwright tonight. I mean, they're still missing Tatis. Wainwright has looked good this year, but I mean, I know I'm getting the age wrong, but he's like a 46-year-old, kind of washed up. But that's the main game I'm targeting tonight.
All right, we got to put a bow on this. Steven, what is your walk-off for the day?
All right, so walk-offs for this show. I'm going to go for some home run calls. And my first one, I'm going to go Luke Voigt tonight. He's going to get back in track against Lopez.
And Sean, what say you?
Keep an eye on the Dodgers game. I've got a few Dodgers in my DFS lineup, specifically Chris Taylor, who's 1074 OPS at home and is really, really underrated. Only 4,300 on DraftKings. He's a guy you can get really easy in most of your streamable leagues as well, your Yahoo and your CBS Sports. I think he's flying way under the radar. So keep an eye on that Dodgers game. And that's my walk-off. Everybody enjoy all the sports today. We got a lot of it.
My walk-off for y'all, it's actually not baseball related. I'm going to shock y'all, and NBA related. Kobe Bryant goes into the Hall of Fame today. Michael Jordan is giving the speech. I don't know if they're televising it. I'm assuming it'll be at least be shown somewhere, maybe YouTube or whatever. Find out where. That ought to be awesome. Just that speech alone. So that would be my walk-off for y'all, is to somehow catch it. I don't know how. I would think NBA TV or someone's gonna.
I think it's on NBA TV.
I would think it's gonna be like 9 networks because it's Michael Jordan talking about Kobe Bryant. So the world of sports needs stuff like that today. Unbelievable that guy's not with us anymore. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take off out of here, and we will by next week. I hope to have bye music for this, because I thought this is 2 shows this morning I do not have any kind of music for. So no, I actually do it. Here we go.
If you can make a hit in a ball game, you can make a hit with me.